flavors.
Yeah.
So I did that just so we could kind of figure it out.
Yeah, 2017 vintage, you're definitely going to want to give that some air.
Yeah. Now you decant for other reasons, but that's the one you would on a new wine. So let's take a quick gander. I didn't have enough glasses. If you want to, he does. If you bring me a glass, or I can steal Courtney's glass, and then we can do side by side. That's a good idea. Thanks, Peter. Now, why would we do side by side?
Compare and contrast.
Compare and contrast. Now, actually, I think from most people, human nature, whatever, it's much easier to compare or to do a relative measurement than it is to do an absolute.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hard for people to walk into a room and say, oh, this room is 68 degrees. On contrast, if you're walking from outdoors and into here, you go, oh, this is cool. So let's take a look. You already took a look at the color. Any comments on the color?
Yeah, so it's definitely got like a deep, like ruby, almost garnet near the rim.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of a watery meniscus. So you can tell there's been probably some age to it. It's not like a super, super young wine.
Okay.
Even though 2017 for a big red is on the young side for sure. But yeah, it's a very pretty, clear color. There's no haze, no sediment, nothing to it. So yeah, just a very sparkly, shiny big red.
Now I'm swirling it now and looking at it, and if anything, I probably expected a little more color concentration, but you know, who knows?
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily mean it's going to taste different, but
yeah, there's definitely no like inkiness to the legs like you get sometimes on really saturated wines. Yeah, a little more, looks like a little more balanced in color. So
all right, let's smell. Now, one of the reasons I started with white is for this very reason. I like the way a red wine jumps out at you after smelling a white wine or tasting a white wine. It's just, you're just so ready for that red wine. Any thoughts on the smell?
So it's a really, yeah, like it's a very like elegant and pretty nose. Again, like I think this has a nice balance of fruit and non-fruit components to it.
Okay.
Fruit-wise, I mean, blackberry, dark cherry, even a little bit of like a blueberry. Blackcurrant is a word that's used a lot with Cabernet Sauvignon. I realize it's not something people in California eat a lot of, but you can get it in jams and jellies, and it kind of gives you a little idea of what that tastes like. But yeah, just a really nice, pretty fresh berry profile. I wouldn't consider this wine jammy. It does have a little bit of like maybe a little bit of a reduction component to it, but it's not jammy like a big Zinfandel might be. It doesn't really come off as overly extracted, but it does have nice concentration to it. So I'd say expressive and well balanced on the nose.
Now you mentioned the word reduction, which can be used as a fault. Do you think it's to that level, or?
I don't think so. No, I think definitely with a fresher wine that's not seen as much air, you're going to get a little more reductive character. But
tell us, Nathan.
So reduction basically is the opposite of oxidization. So when a wine is reductive, that means it hasn't been exposed to a lot of oxygen, and it's giving off flavor components that are representative of that. So this tends to be found usually in wines that are very young, wines that are produced in a winemaking style that does not have a lot of oxygen. So usually like a stainless steel Chardonnay or Riesling, you might get a lot of reductive character, like kind of a flinty, smoky note. Versus reds that see oak, you get more of an oxidative character typically, although because of the tannin and the skin, that actually eats up a lot of the oxygen in the winemaking process. So for that reason, you can get reductive notes in a red wine, even though it has seen a more oxidative environment during aging.
You know, you brought it up, and now I want to cheat. Let's go to the decanted version and see if there's any difference on the nose. I think there might be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just it's a little more open, is a good way to put it. Probably the first wine that just had the cork pop and pulled, that one definitely had a little more tightness and tension just initially on the nose.
Right.
This wine feels more spread out. It feels more I don't want to say like integrated, but it just feels like it's more happy in a way. This wine was a little more angsty. This wine feels a little more happy.
I would say also the interesting thing that kind of popped out to me is the ripeness of the fruit kind of jumps out at me more on the decanted version. Just, my take on it is, okay, now I'm seeing definitely riper fruit. And I think you're right that it was just too, I was kind of confused with everything was too tight on this one and couldn't separate out the smells. Very nice. Let's taste, because I can't wait any longer. Sorry. Mm.
Were you tasting the decanted one or the?
I was tasting the undecanted first because I want to notice the difference, and I'm thinking that I'm saving the best for last. I'm just anticipating. But you can do it however you want it, and let me know what you think.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely got a lot of tension on the palate too. Very, I wouldn't say overly structured, but it's got solid shoulders to it. One thing that's really sticking out to me is the tobacco note. There's a really pretty kind of tobacco character. A little bit of almost like maybe even a sage, kind of just a little underlying herbal pyrazinic character that Cabernet Sauvignon tends to have. And yeah, it's just a really nice balance between fruit and non-fruit.
Now the good news, bad news is I personally like the tobacco note. Now it scares some of the people out there. Can you kind of talk to the people out there?
Yeah.
That when you say tobacco, what does it mean to you?
So when you say tobacco, it's not like you're standing next to someone smoking a cigarette and you get kind of an astringent, almost like harsh sound. This is almost like you walk into like a humidor, or you smell a Cuban cigar that's unlit. It's not like a smoky, like not like the California air right now smell. You get more of this really elegant kind of like cigar box cedar. It smells like when you walk into like a really nice like wine cellar or something, but it has like a little something smoky into it. I don't know. It's a really hard direct comparison because you don't ever eat tobacco. You just kind of experience it.
Well, some people probably do.
Well, I'm sure someone has. I guess there is chewing tobacco.
Yeah, there is.
But you don't swallow that either. So.
Yeah.
Is tobacco considered a crop?
I think so.
I mean, it's grown. It's farmed. So.
Yeah, and depending on what you said on the tobacco note, a lot of the leafy characteristics also could come into play. So now, the interesting part is there's these combination of flavors, and they all come from either the grapes or something else. What is the something else is that they could come from, Nathan?
So there's a lot of different things. Obviously, oak or aging is going to be the most obvious one, the biggest one. There's other things like lees contact. So depending on how the wine is processed, if you leave more of the kind of the chunkiness of the grape, that's a really rough way to put it, but if you leave more of the chunkiness in the grape, it can cause different flavor characteristics. There's also things like stem inclusion, obviously not something that would be used on Cabernet Sauvignon typically, but for Pinot Noir or Grenache or Gamay, you might see that there. And then also, character of the environment. If it's a smoky season, you might get smoke taint in the grapes. You might get a, smoky component imparted that way.
Now, in my constantly trying to increase my wine knowledge, I was reading some articles recently. And one of the things that I was taught in WSET, which is that the seeds of a grape often have a very bitter component to the tannins. And now they're actually re-looking at that and saying it is true before fermentation, but not so true after. And I think that's one of the interesting thing about why does a grape taste like a grape and yet wine tastes so much more complex? And a lot of it has to do with the things that go on during the fermentation. Can change a lot of it. So there you go. Now,
David, can you say again what you said about the bitterness, what the opinion was before and what it is now?
So the early days, in fact, everything I was taught up until recently said that the first thing you do is take out the seeds. And the reason is because it can leave the wine with a bitter component. That's in very simple terms what they said. And it's a form of tannins. So it's going to be the tannins, but the tannins aren't going to be the nice, smooth, silky that you want. They're instead going to be something that's irritating to your mouth. That's the thought. That was the original concept. And I think it was because of tasting the actual seed. But what they're saying is that taste of the original seed is kind of like grapes, and it changes when it's fermented. And now they're saying that maybe the tannins brought out aren't as bitter as they originally thought. But time will tell, and the winemakers will try some things and see. Like you were talking about stem inclusion. I mean, there's people that try all kinds of things. They even toast the stems, put them back in, everything to fine-tune the tannins in grapes or the taste. So.
And on that seed note, I've been reading about actually how you care for the seeds during pre-fermentation. So if you crush the seeds and really break them, that's when a lot of the bitter components are released. So a lot of winemakers now are using very gentle pressing or crushing processes rather than just kind of running them through like a meat grinder. They're very gentle, very soft with the pressing to ensure that there's
kind of like a fine lady. Gentle's always better, right?
Excuse me, David. My social media expert is saying, if you're enjoying this so far, please hit the like button and consider sharing our stream.
Absolutely.
It really helps us out.
Absolutely. Now, Peter mentioned the contest. We also would like to see some comments in general, just who you are, where you're from, if you would like to, because all those help us fine-tune these. I mean, give a shout out for Nathan as our guest if you enjoy it, you know, and we're going to see if we can get Courtney up here, or maybe not, you know, and everybody loves to see babies, so, but we'll see. But before we do that, let's quickly touch on the differences because I thought they were very pronounced.
So this is my decanted, this is my undecanted.
Okay. Which is your go-to? Which do you prefer?
I would prefer to drink the decanted wine.
Decanted, absolutely. What happened in the decanter?
So we kind of touched on it earlier, but the wine just kind of spread its wings. It's a good analogy. We have a baby, and when he's swaddled, he's very just tightly wound. And the first thing he does when the swaddle comes out is he just stretches as far as he can go and as wide as he can go.
I like that.
And after a while, he kind of, you know, he gets from that being that cranky little balled up thing to being sweet and kind of a little more friendly. So that's just something that's fresh in my mind. But definitely the wine with air has, it feels just more resolved and settled. It's a really, really friendly, not friendly in like a easy to drink way necessarily. It is an easy to drink wine, but it's not simple. It's a very complex wine while showing all of its complexity rather than undecanted. It might not be revealing as many layers.
It's still good, but not as good. Sierra, I heard Sierra wanted to say something to us or ask us. Let's hear from Sierra. I like that even better.
Yeah, so we have just a couple questions in our comments here. One, it says, are there fires in the areas where our grapes are being grown right now? I can answer that for you. They are not close to where our vineyards are. They are obviously, as everything, covered in ash and smoke. But thankfully, we do not have any vineyards on fire. We're very happy. And then somebody else asked, if there are fires there, how would that change the taste of the crops, the smoke, the soot, etc.? So if you can tell me anything about that, that'd be great.
So I actually have some experience.
Go ahead, take it.
We've done some work with a winemaker up in Humboldt County, who that's an area really prone to fires, and so he's had a lot of experience working with smoke taint and how that interacts with grapes. So smoke is something that it's kind of mysterious still. Winemakers in California aren't sure exactly how much smoke impacts a grape. They know it's there. They know it can potentially ruin a crop, or in subtle doses, it might not be noticeable, or it could actually impart a pleasant flavor in a little bit of a way. So on the lower end of the spectrum, you might get a very subtle smoky aroma, just a little bit of like almost a campfire note, very delicate, very subtle. Other times you might get something that's a little more like an ashtray. So if there's too much smoke taint, the grapes are super close to the fire, or there was a lot of really heavy smoke, you might get something that's a little more astringent and not that fun to drink. As far as, you know, Temecula and Lodi are both really far from where the fires are. Temecula, you know, is not very close to anything, and Lodi, you might get some smoke from the mountains, but it's not going to be low enough to really do any damage. So from what I've been reading, I've been, you know, kind of trying to keep up with a lot of winemakers in the area that are affected by fires. There could be some producers in Sonoma and Napa, especially, that are affected, but for the most part, I think where Orange Coast vineyards are located, I wouldn't expect any really discernible level of smoke taint.
I actually do remember, I couldn't tell you what the winery was, but I do remember when there were other fires, I think last year or the year before, there were a couple specific wineries, one in particular that put out a line of reds, and specifically reds that were, I think they called it like smoke stack or something, smokestack reds, because it had all been affected by the fire, and they kind of just ran with it and made smoky wines, and they were very interesting.
Yeah. And if you're a person that enjoys like bourbon or bourbon barrel-aged wine, something with a little more of a smoke, a little more of a kick, you actually might really enjoy wines that have been affected by smoke taint. It's not like a super like natural way that wine is made, because it's, you know, it only happens when there's a fire, but it doesn't always taste bad, and sometimes it can actually be a beneficial thing in small doses or if cared for properly.
Yep.
One more follow-up question on the smoke. Well, I think the advantage we have is it's now fire season, but it's also the beginning of harvest. So a lot of grapes, if they're not fully grown and harvested, they're getting to their last little bits of growth and adding bricks and whatnot. Wouldn't the smoke do more damage earlier in the growth cycle when it gets down in the soil and really works its way up through the branches and the vines?
From what I've read, the smoke is most dangerous right after veraison, so that's right when the grapes are starting to change color. So the grapes at that point are shifting from growing to ripening, and if the smoke affects the grapes at that time, that's when they're most vulnerable. So in California, that typically happens early July, maybe late June, depending on the grape variety in the region. So right now, we pretty much dodged that bullet. There is, obviously, when the grapes are full grown, there is still potentially some impact if they really do get super smoky. But 2017 was a year that I can reference, and Napa had a lot of fires in October, but they were really close to the vines. So some of the big producers, like Screaming Eagle, I believe, didn't even make a vintage that year because they didn't want to tarnish their product with something that was different than what consumers would expect.
Very nice.
They could make it up in volume of their other price points.
Yeah.
3-4 digits each. As horrible as the devastation is at over 2 million acres, it's still about 2% of California. So obviously there's a lot of high mountains and low shores that aren't burning, but as bad as the fires are, we are getting the ash, but it's not complete devastation yet.
Yeah, I think the only negative that I can think of that you didn't cover by saying the percentage is low is that where the fires are typically is also the premium grapes, unfortunately, because they're going to be in the more remote, hilly areas closer to the areas that could burn. That's just the nature of where the best grapes come from. So, is that enough on the smoke?
Should we?
Thank you. He is 3 months old 2 days ago on the 10th. Or, yes, today's Saturday, so the 10th.
So I'm going to do our first contest.
Please, take it away. Switch camera.
Who remembers what the email address is? Contest at orangecoastwinery.com. Send an email to contest@orangecoastwinery.com. The subject should be Chardonnay, and give us some feedback on our virtual tasting, on what we're sharing with you, on the value to you. But by sending an email, you'll be entered into a raffle for a very, very low price coupon on a bottle of Chardonnay. You're going to get a good deal. So subject Chardonnay, feedback in the body, contest@orangecoastwinery.com.
Thank you. How long was that going to run, Peter? How long do they have to send that in?
Because we see a whole bunch of views on Sundays and Mondays after our virtual tastings, we're going to run this for 48 hours after we end tonight's virtual tasting. So I would say maybe at the end of the first of the Monday Night Football doubleheader games.
All right. Now, is this the last contest, or are you going to do another one?
We were going to do one after the first period, one after the second period, and one after the third period. But we're a little behind. But we'll do some more. We'll do some more.
All right, this is a 4-quarter game, people. Stick with us.
Ken, while we're hogging the mic here, Sierra, can I ask you to come up and tell people about our 926 event with the very, very fun name?
Hello there. Yeah, so our next virtual tasting event is going to be really fun. We are going to be doing an event called Things That Go Pop. And the reason being is because we are doing 3 different bubblies, the peach mango, pina colada, and give me one sec here, my brain isn't working. Orange bubbly, of course, because it's your favorite. And we will be doing very unique and fun popcorn pairings. I know that sounds weird, but there are so many different ways to make popcorn, and we're going to make date night and movie night for you having to stay inside a lot more exciting. So we hope that we can bring some very new and fresh takes on popcorn and different ways to drink OCW wine as well. So please do join us for that. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's see if we can make it pop.
Yeah, sparkling wine and popcorn is one of the premier pairings in the wine world. It's unpretentious but delicious.
So in the spirit of catching up, we're going to announce the second contest. Send your email to contest@orangecoastwinery.com. In the subject, put Things That Go Pop, and you will win, if your name is drawn, you will win a coupon for some of the bubblies and the popcorn recipes that are selected in our event.
All All right.
Courtney, you coming up?
No, you got it. Come on. You're prettier than us.
Come on up.
Courtney Martin. Martin.
Let's make sure we get you in. Oh, look at that. We got you in the camera.
I
Very nice.
I had the sincere pleasure of Courtney working in the office for, what was it, about 8 months? Something like that. She was in between jobs, and we had a little win-win going. She helped set up wine clubs, did a whole lot of office stuff, and basically taught me what a feisty Southern woman was.
Now, that mic, you have to get pretty close, so you could either try and get close or hold it if you want, whatever you want to do. It is on, right? Okay. Hello. Yes.
Testing.
Yep. Actually,
Right here.
pull it up.
No, it was not.
There you go.
All right, so Courtney has the decanted one in her hand. She wants to talk about it at all.
Oh.
No, actually,
All the pressure.
could we go back?
Yeah.
And because I think you're a Chardonnay drinker, right? Is that true?
Drinks a little
I
everything.
mean, I
yeah.
drink everything, but yeah, I like a good Chardonnay.
So could you give us your comments? I think you had it. Was there anything you'd like to say on the Chardonnay? If not, drink it again, please.
I mean, the first thing that I picked up was more tropical notes, which is this is Temecula, so that would be expected.
Yeah, this is 100% Temecula grapes. We vary from time to time where we get our grapes from, as you know, and usually it will say on the bottle, and if it says Temecula Valley, then it's from Temecula Valley. If it says California, it could be from a mix of Lodi and Temecula or other areas. Sometimes we do Paso. And if it says Lodi, it's Lodi. But anyway, that's a quick one. Keep going. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I mean, it's citrus, tropical. For me, I like it because it's not over extracted or over tropical. And it's kind of middle of the road, so not like your super crisp linear Sauvignon Blanc necessarily that you would get, which is definitely refreshing, but not super round, too fruity. So I like the little middle of the road, kind of get a little bit of roundness with being crisp and lean at the same time.
Yeah.
I was an engineer for a long time, and now I'm in the wine industry, but I have not heard the term very frequently linear, and you've both said that. And I know Courtney taught you that, Nathan. But what do you mean by that?
So linear, like the definition of linear is just like a straight line. So sometimes you have wines that on the palate feel like a straight line, like they kind of cut, not in a bad way, but they have a very like crisp line to them. Other wines are very broad and kind of blousy on the palate, and they fill out and expand. But a linear wine, think of like Champagne, Sauvignon Blanc, crisper stainless steel aged Chardonnay. They hit your palate and they just go ching, like a stainless steel knife cutting through something. I don't know, but
A laser.
Laser.
Yeah, laser beam.
Now, what is the difference in WSET terms of simple versus linear?
So simple is basically a wine that doesn't necessarily have a lot of complexity to it.
Okay.
Linear, for me at least, has to do more with like the texture of the wine, the way it hits the palate.
Okay.
It's hard to see a wine as linear on the nose when you're smelling it. You can get a wine that maybe feels like it will be linear on the palate, but that's something that you can only get from tasting the wine and just kind of
there's a lot
feeling
of those
it.
things, yes.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you.
Nice.
All right. So there you go. We have 2 positive votes for the Chardonnay. And I guess, Courtney, compared to past vintages that you remember or don't remember, positive, negative?
I don't have as good a memory as he does. But
You just had a baby.
yeah, that's true. Mom brain. But this one's super nice. I've been drinking it the whole time while you guys have been on, so it's very enjoyable, light, refreshing.
She was holding the baby with the glass of wine.
With a glass of wine. So
All right.
yeah.
Well, let's move on. Big Wave.
Big wave. You wanna, or should we have her do the undecanted first?
I would, but she can do it either way.
She's the boss.
And
Well,
I
it
think
sounds like you are.
now on the undecanted, I think it's kind of catching up now because it's been in the glass for a good 10 plus minutes, and a lot of the oxygenation factors have been catching up. So the difference might not be as great now as it was. But the other reason I did the non-decanted was a lot of people think that they can just open up the bottle, leave the cork out, and it's going to naturally open up. And the more we're finding out is that's not enough. There really isn't enough surface area, that you're not going to get the oxygen you need to truly have a wine open up. you probably, especially on a young wine, have to decant,
Mhm.
which is kind of why I did this, to see if there was a difference. Sorry.
I'm just
We-
staring at my
We
corrected.
we do have to have an unplanned contest. We would like people to send to contest@orangecoastwinery.com. Should Sierra pick up the baby? Should Sierra pick up the baby? That's the subject. Should Sierra pick up the baby? And in the body, either say yes or no.
Probably gonna be some yes votes there. Yeah, I mean, for this, the first thing that jumps out to me on this is dark cherry, but I get like a licorice note. I can't decide if it's red
Oh,
or
I like the licorice
red or
note.
black. I get a little bit of both. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, blackberry, cherry, licorice.
I actually have a question for you, Courtney.
Mhm.
I've heard that like when you are pregnant or around when you're pregnant, you become very sensitive to smells and things like that. Have you found that you're better or can pick up more notes and stuff? I mean, obviously you weren't drinking while you were pregnant, but I'm just thinking if you were
Yeah,
if you were
actually-
sniffing, could you bring out more?
Yeah, I actually wrote a whole like blog post on this because the first thing when I found out I was pregnant was like, oh no, I can't have wine, which sounds bad, but like that's my life. I love wine. My senses definitely heightened. I could smell really well throughout all 9 months. So we taste wine and write about it, like he said earlier, and I grew like, I don't know, I probably got better at tasting almost, not even tasting the wine at all. I could pick up every single note that he was basically doing just from my nose.
And even seeing stuff that I wasn't, or tasting stuff that I wasn't tasting, or smelling stuff that I wasn't smelling, just there was really like acute subtleties to the wine that Courtney would point it out, and then all of a sudden, I found it there too. So, yeah, you can keep going.
No, yeah, it like changed my tasting world. So now I actually feel like I still taste better through my nose and not my palate. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. And actually, speaking of your blog and everything, I just wanted to post this really quick for everybody. Please do go follow Courtney and Nathan on Winery Reflections on Instagram. They have awesome posts on there. They're very insightful, and obviously they know what they're talking about. And of course, if you're not following us already, please do follow us too at the Orange Coast Winery.
Very nice.
I want to thank all the people sending emails to the contest email. The should Sierra pick up the baby is getting a resounding yes. But it also dawned on me that the subject of that contest should have been things that go poop.
That's good. Hopefully not now, though, because now's not a good time.
We are now introducing Jude to the Orange Coast Winery family.
Oh, let's see the baby. Yes.
Jude is his middle name. His first name is Peter. Peter Jude Martin.
Okay.
Did I get that right?
Oh, look at that.
There he is.
This is Jude Gregory Martin, 3 months old yesterday.
A future wine expert.
Yes. Hopefully.
The lineage is there.
Say hi.
Hi.
He's starting to reach for the glass too.
Yeah, he helps us taste sometimes.
It's a pretty color.
What color jersey is he wearing?
Orange.
For?
The Clemson Tigers.
All
Which
right.
I doubt anyone knows who they are.
Oh,
Well,
how
if you
could
watch
they not
college
know?
football, you know
Yes.
who they are.
They beat LSU last year.
No, they lost to LSU last year.
Oh,
They're playing right now, which shows how much I love wine that I'm sitting here and not
watching.
watching the game. All right, buddy, we're gonna taste.
All right, David, what's next? Doing a great job.
So,
Get the food.
is anybody out there tasted this wine? Can they give us any thoughts on the Big Wave? Because this is not our first rodeo on the Big Wave. This is, I don't even know, Peter. Does Peter know how many Big Wave generations we've had?
I think 11 through 17, so this would be 7.
7. And we want to know how it compares. If anybody out there is tasting, if anybody out there has tasted all 7 generations of this wine, how does it compare? My memory's not good enough, but I'm telling you, I think it tastes pretty well. I have somebody out there, I think, that wants to say something Oh no, just looking, because we do have somebody in the audience that probably has tasted Big Waves before, and not tasting Big Wave right now though. Looks like Chardonnay or a white wine in the glass. All right, retaste, backwards.
No, a number of people have said that the Chardonnay sounds so good they want to try some now, even though they haven't had, or even though they don't really like Chardonnay.
Very good.
And that's the thing with Chardonnay is there's so many different types of Chardonnay, so don't close it off. Like always give it a try, because there's a Chardonnay for everyone.
Yeah, one of the things we're taught is Chardonnay is the chameleon of grapes. It really is up to the winemaker, the wine grower, how they want to make it. There's so many styles. It's kind of like one of those cookings with a neutral ingredient. It takes on your idea. So.
Yeah, they can grow in any climate, basically. I think it's the most planted grape on earth, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're correct.
But yeah, you can grow it everywhere in California. You can grow it in Oregon. You can grow it in Washington. You can grow it in New York, in France, in Spain, Italy, Argentina, Australia. It pretty much, any region that grows wine will have Chardonnay planted there. It's almost unequivocally true.
As with all statistics, we're sure we can find somebody who's going to argue with us. So. No, not me. Not this time. Okay.
Sarah has something to say.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off there, David, but I
Louis.
did hear you mention food. And for those of you at home who were unable to get our charcuterie board or any of our charcuterie items that pair with our Big Wave, I just wanted to throw out there that nacho cheese Doritos pairs excellent with our Big Wave Red Blend
There you
2017.
go. Nacho cheese.
And the Syrah, according to
Syrah.
Sierra.
There
So
you go.
yeah, if you're at home and you're
Do we get that?
yeah, featured in our new package, everyone gets a bag of nacho Doritos.
Bring it on.
No, yeah. So for those of you who are at home and didn't get our cheese and are looking to snack on something, I highly recommend some nacho cheese Doritos.
Now, the poster that was behind Louis and Peter kind of moved the camera. You didn't get to see it. The sheet and Pete Perry.
Sheet and Perry.
Look at that. That was his 30th anniversary. That was the gift. Wonderful poster. Part of the gift. Oh, the winery. Oh, that was a gift.
I couldn't afford pearls.
There you go. Speaking of food, you can't see mine. Maybe somebody will take one up to the camera and show you that Sierra made us some tasting. Now, in my training, I like to really wait for the food until I'm sure that I've tasted the wine to the point where I'm done, just because you never know how it's going to affect. But in all intents and purposes, wine is meant to be drank with food.
Thank you, Vanna White.
And if you guys haven't tried the Hatch chili with cheese with wine, you should definitely try that.
That's this right here.
Yes, you should try that. And it is not pepper jack cheese. Let me tell you that right now.
Oh man, that's good cheese.
But now try it with the wine. And I think you know the drill on pairings. What is the goal of a pairing? The wine should get better. The cheese should get food should get better.
It's a great pairing, actually.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think this cheese, because it kind of has that the chili in it, it actually plays well to the pyrazinic note in the cab. So that kind of tobacco sage note kind of accentuates the little bit of a chili in the cheese, and together it's a really cohesive pairing. It tastes really delicious.
Now, one of the things that can happen with a little spice is it can get too much. It can magnify the alcohol, can magnify the spice. I don't think that happens.
No, the cheese has a little. I wouldn't even say a kick. It has a little something, but it's not. I wouldn't consider it spicy. It's got a little bite, but it's
more
not
of a flavor bite than a spice bite.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sometimes big red wines and spicy food can be a little bit of a tough battle to fight.
But if you love spicy food, don't worry. We have a couple. Our White Wave goes fantastic with spicy foods. Our Albarino can go with spicy foods. We have plenty of wines.
Oh, and the sparkling wines too.
Sparkling wine,
especially if it's got a little residual sugar in it, that's the way to go with spicy food.
All right.
Sure.
Well, I think it's a free-for-all now. If you have any questions, make sure you comment and ask us. We're getting close to winding up, I think. We've gone through. I think we've accomplished everything we wanted to do, we set out to do, minus making you happy. So if there's anything we can do to cover, let us know, please. I do. In case I forget, and anybody, thank you so much. You two were fantastic guests. You did everything I could have possibly asked, so thank you for showing up. It was very enjoyable for me. Thank you.
We really appreciate you guys having us. And for us, Orange Coast is kind of the place where we learned to love wine. We liked it before, but we lived down the street and came here 3 or 4 times a week. And
this was our first date place, actually.
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
Our first date was, I believe
wonderful.
so.
It was.
Was on a Groupon here.
It was a Groupon here.
Probably in like 2015 or so, 2014, I don't know. And we kind of just fell in love with the place, fell in love with the people. Sherry and Damon obviously were some of our favorites. And as soon as Peter started working here, the place
It went downhill. It did.
No, Peter's been awesome, and having Sherry on board too has been great. And just the whole team here is like family to us, so we love being here.
Thank you, guys. And you guys also, one more time, don't forget to follow them on Instagram at Winery Reflections. They're amazing. And also follow us at the Orange Coast Winery. Thank you.
And I do like your site. I did check out your blog on the pregnancy. I loved it. I'm not female, but I still enjoyed it. And that is one of the things we're taught in the wine education, is that smell is everything. Aromas. You should be able to, minus a few different things that could happen in the wine, pretty much smell about everything. And then you should always do that ahead of time, because your whole goal should be to try and guess what you're going to taste before you taste it.
Yeah.
You're going to enjoy it more.
Yeah. No, I agree. I love smelling things first. Funny, I would always smell the wine first, like incessantly, and then finally taste it. And we took our WCT level 3 with a local master sommelier named Peter Neptune, and he actually said to try smelling retronasally, to where you actually taste the wine briefly, just get it on your palate, and let that also fill up your senses. So you're actually just kind of taking a quick sip, not even tasting it. Because when your mouth has other flavors in it from before, let's say you drank a cup of coffee or brushed your teeth, God forbid it was right before, but if you let the wine kind of coat your palate just really quickly, don't even think about tasting it, but just do a little sip of it, let that coat your palate. Sometimes that actually helps reveal some deeper sense in there too.
Absolutely.
So there's different ways to do it. That's a kind of a trick that I was taught.
Yeah. And now it's kind of funny because I don't do it unless I'm forced to now, but I enjoyed when I was taking those classes of spitting, because the same thing would happen to me, is I would revisit, and it's a terrible thing to say, but as you're spitting, you're revisiting these things that are just happening in your brain, and you go, oh, okay, see something I didn't see before, whatever. So
yeah, I think
I can't handle it.
Keeping the wine in your mouth a little bit longer or spitting will actually help you get more flavors and notes. I had something else to say, but I already forgot. So.
New mama.
New mama syndrome. Now, if you guys want to go and look at those papers and give me any feedback on those, the forums, please do. You can go online on our Facebook page. We have the links to the forums. We'll try and get to you those another way. You can always email. You could even email the contents and ask for the form. But our goal is to try and give a guide to help you through the tasting process, and then we're going to try and build a database so that we can help you pick wines. Because one of the questions we get, Amber is always answering those questions of, well, I don't know what wine to pick. Tell me what I should pick. And she has to ask you questions like, what do you like? So this guide would help with all that. We could kind of put our wines in certain categories, even though we hate to do that. From a sales standpoint, it'd help us. So there you go. We're always looking out for you.
I think that's a brilliant idea. And like just looking at the questions on here, some of the wines that have a little more tannin. I know my mom loves red wine, but wines with a lot of tannin she doesn't always enjoy. It's just not something that is her style. Versus I know some people that just can't get enough tannin. They want a wine that like rips their mouth, So I think this is a really smart idea to have people go through and just fill out their preferences. And
it was Peter's.
Oh well, he is the idea man.
Good job, Peter.
So we have a couple more contests.
All right.
I would like to thank the Martin gang, and I would like to thank David and the whole team here that has been working hard getting your pickups. Like I said, we're closing in on 1,200 this month, and it's only what date is it? The 11th, the 12th. Let's get to 2,000 pickups this month.
All right.
Before I announce the last contest, I'll let you know some secrets between now and the end of the year. In October, we'll be releasing a Petite Syrah. So we'll do a virtual tasting of that on October 10th, but it'll be available on October 1st. On November 1st, we're going to be releasing a Montfort Vineyard Merlot.
Ooh, Merlot.
And then on December 1st, we'll be releasing a Reserve Malbec. And by way of this live virtual tasting, I'm going to tell David, we're going to do our virtual tastings in November and December on the first Saturday of the month because of holidays. So we can go first and
that's a
third.
good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter.
So we get some deviation.
Once again, Peter's always watching out for you.
Petite Syrah, Merlot, Reserve Malbec. So before I do the last contest, we're also, as the pandemic is starting to subside a little bit and we're going through our second phase of reopening, nobody really knows what's going to happen. Technically, we're right now in, what is it called? We're in the moderate tier 3. If things go down to level 2, technically we can open our tasting room at 25% capacity. I don't know how that works. Maybe one-on-one tasting at each of our bars, so we can have 8 people in here. But we're going to figure out some kind of program at some point after we're allowed to reopen where we can do some hosted tastings. We might do a lot of instead of just being open, everything will be by reservation at this point, but we might just do some seated tastings and have people come in at a 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and they'll have the tasting so we can give you guys the experience and also operate efficiently. So stay tuned for that. Last but not least, contest at orangecoastwinery.com. Contest at orangecoastwinery.com. Big Wave should be the subject. Send in Big Wave for the subject. Give us some feedback on our virtual tasting. Give us some feedback on our participants. Give us some ideas on what we can do during these strange times. Forgive us for the slow start because there's always some bug in a live demo. So thank you for your patience, and let's do your pickups. Let's enjoy some good wine.
All right. Now, one of the things Peter and I had talked about, and I don't think he mentioned it, or either that or I was enjoying my wine too much, was the ability to ask him questions. And he and I have talked about it, and we're going to probably use the Zoom platform. We're going to work on a date, and I think we're going to try and have an interactive where you can ask Peter questions, or whoever in the staff you would like to ask questions and meet on a Zoom. We'll probably make that available. It's much easier to do in a platform where multiple people can talk. In fact, today we had 4 cameras set up so we could try and separate us a little better and do things, and of course we couldn't get them to work, so there you go, technology.
Do we have a Jude cam?
The baby cam?
We will work on a Jude cam. Yeah.
He's so confused right now.
I can't even zoom in on the baby. How bad is that? Because I know you all want to zoom. I think we're done. I know I'm going to go revisit because I didn't get enough Big Wave.
It's great.
Yeah, I might need more too.